Welcome to this lecture. So in the previous lecture we saw how to log the system, how to also get the screenshot from the system, and everything was covered in the previous lecture. So now it will be interesting lecture because from the last viewpoint we had only access to the certain part of a client. Now we will have a complete access of the client file system through the command line. So now we are going to hijack the command prompt of the client computer so that we'll just get this directory access to there through this command line. So by the end of this lecture you can see we'll just see this all of this command shell that is run remotely on the server. So let's get started. So first of all, let's go to our backdoor.py file, and here now first thing what we want to do is as always we have to start. First of all, let's go to the options and let's change for the options that is going to be executed if we want that command shell. So if the string choice that is given by the user will be something, let me say, I think we are run out of this command, so let me just give E as a command, and if E is entered then I want to just open the command shell. So let's make this method now. After we just go over here, so let's use this method to just get some information from the user. So first of all, I'll just say that method will be your command shell method. So after that, now let's there's something that is our remote command shell or remote cmd shell. So this basically, this command shell will give you the remote cmd shell, which is, you could see same thing like, okay, let me just get that. So something like this. So you can just run any command that is executed locally on this client machine and you can get the result straight away in your server. So let's go over here and let's start first of all sending some of these encoded link as always. So I'm going to encode some message and I'm going to say that should be cmd, so that now you can just go to the client and basically you can add now again over here saying that if the string data elif the str data that is sent by the user or by the server is maybe, that is in the case which is cmd, then we are going to execute some program over here. So we'll just left it out as it is. Let's go back over here. Now after sending that command, so let me first do something, that is we want to open a loop. So this loop will be infinite loop because we want the command that is to be entered over here. So if you could see that we have to enter some command in this cell, so let's get that command over here, that is a string command, because it should be inputted in the server side. So we have to take input from the server side, not from the client side. So first of all, if that command is maybe quit command, or let me say that same command which is str command is exit command, if it is one of the case, then you know what to do. We'll just say something that is the information send again, that is the string dot encode, and in this time I'll just say go back. So this will be the information that will be sent, or we'll also see for the another information that is given by the user. If the string command that is entered in that command shell is in this case cmd, and you should now guess that we have to do nothing over here because this command does not work. So cmd is nothing. If you type here cmd, if you type maybe here cmd, that is not going to work. So let's do that, something that is to send, or basically we'll just print information instead of just sending to the client because it is useless. And I'll just say please do not use this command over here. And now next thing what you have to do is, okay, let me just go over here and we can just print the default, or basically we can also get decoded some information back from the client. Before that, let me again give one command, that is elif if it is not the case, that is we don't enter quit or we don't enter cmd, then if the string, that is this command, that is str command, has the length that is greater than 0, that means we have to execute this on the client side. So first of all we have to send this by encoding, that is just encode this, and it is encode technique, not encoding. So we'll just say str command. So we just send this first, and now we can have that is buffer that is sent from that client with the response of this command. So before doing that, so you could see that I'm just leaving some space over here saying receive, and here can also be the receive, because we have now encoded some cmd. So we'll have to receive over here, that is we'll just get some responses from the client basically. So we'll just complete it after we just reach, or basically after we code here, which is in the case of the client. So let's see what we'll just do over here. So basically if I say that if we just get the cmd, I'm just going to make that is new command saying command shell. So here we have to execute those command. So let's make that command shell method after this lock. So let me say it should be command shell method. And over here, first thing what you need to do is obviously get the current directory. So I'll just say get the current directory, and the current directory can be get by this OS module and get, and we have this cwd command, which stands for current working directory. So first of all we have to get that current working directory, and let me just typecast it because we have to convert it to the string. So after you just convert it to the string, let's send this. So in order to send, you have to encode this as usual. So we have to encode it, that is saying str current directory. So let's encode this first and send it to the server. So now next thing what you need to do is we have to make this while true loop, which is the infinite loop that is going to execute the command that is sent from this server. So if you could see, we have created some command like quit, and basically it has also given some command. So we have to execute that command remotely over here. So let's make that. So first of all we have to get that command, that is data that is sent from the server. So that should be done with this decode technique, and it is utf8, which is the method here. And I'll just say receive first. So we have to receive, that is the buffer int buff. So I just get that integer buffer, and basically we are just decoding over here. So let's see if that data which is sent from the server is go back. So if it is the go back, then what you need to do is simply you will change the directory from this to next. So in order to check the directory, we have this chdir command in the OS module, and we'll just set this current directory, which is the string current directory, which is current working directory, and basically this is the command to change directory back. So after you change, we'll just break. So this is your first command. Elif, the next command, we'll just take the next command if the data, or basically str data, which is sent by the server, and we'll just make the slice of that data, and let me show you what the slice will be. But first let me just convert it to the lowercase, and if that is the cd command, so basically we are checking for change directory command, which is the famous command of the command prompt. So I'll just say str data, and we are just getting now that is the another part, which is maybe this, and some user prefer that is writing this command instead of ch or cd. They can also write this command, that is chdir command. So in the both case you have to do something, that is changing the directory. So in order to change the directory, you have to make first command. So I'm just going to make a command which is obj command, and here I have to make use of a sub process. So you should just guess now, we are just executing some command with this sub process. So we usually use either the call or check output or popen. So popen is to just create a process and execute it. So in this case, this is the perfect method to just execute, because we are just creating some command to be executed on the cell. So what we are going to do is, first of all, we'll just get that data that is sent from that server, and next thing is basically we have to just concatenate it with, and we have to concatenate it with cd command. And after that, okay, after that what you need to do is you have to get this standard out method or attribute or argument of this popen method, and here you have to give this sub process and pipe argument. So this represents that we are just using the pipelining, or basically this is the one command, and std out. So these are the standard out, and basically the next will be also your pipe command. So in this case it is not std out, so we have already studied the std out. It will be st error. So basically we'll check for the standard error now, and it has also been the pipe. You can check the documentation, and the next one over here will be the standard in. So the standard in will be sub process dot pipe again, and let me just go to the documentation and show you what is this about. And the cell here should be true because we want to execute in the cell. So let's see about this documentation. Let's go over here, and let me just check for the documentation for this pipeline, or basically sub process. And this is the link to check for the sub process. You could see we have a call method. We are not using that call method, but we are using, which is a pipe over here. So this is important. So you could see that it is saying it is the special value that can be used with the standard in, standard out, or standard error argument to popen, and indicates that pipe to the standard stream must be open. That means we are just using this communication method in order to execute that command. So we are just executing that command within the cell. You can just represent, or basically you can see that we are just making some command to be executed concurrently on the cell, and you could see we have made each cell command to be true. So now we have made this command, which is, you can see, object command. Let me just go over here, make some spaces. So if we didn't get any error, we have to check if we get error or not. So for that we'll just make use of this standard error, and there is a method that is going to be called, which is read method. And first of all we have to decode this, and in order to decode we have again this utf-8. So I'll just pass here utf-8 again, utf-8. So here what we just did was we are just checking if there is any error, just executing that command or not. So I'll just say if it is empty. So basically what is happening here is we are just checking if there is an error while executing that command with this standard error protocol, or with this standard error argument of the sub process. So if there is not error, that means we can just get the output now. I'll just say give me the output, and now output should be the command. So first of all let's run this command, or basically we have to get that object command, which is just over here, and after that we have to get this standard out, which is basically reading that command. So let's read that command first, because we are not getting any error, and now it's time to split lines, or basically we need to decode now. So let's decode this first, and we have to decode again with utf-8, because this is the command that is sent from the server. That means we have to decode before actually executing it. So I'll say utf-8, and after that we decode. We have to split lines. So what we just did here was we just wanted to execute one command from this decoding, or basically this represents that this is the command sequence. So basically this will just decode all of our command and we'll just split lines. That means we'll just get different command and we'll just get first command out of it. So next thing is basically we have to now change the directory, which was the main aim of using this cd command. So let's change that, and you know how to change that is using this chdir, and I'll just get that output now, which is str output. So now we have changed the directory. Let's go over here, let's get some data. Now the data should be encoded because we have to send this data. So let's encode this, and let me say that I want to encode with the /n. Let me just type /n over here, which is giving a new line, and after that I want to just typecast that our current directory, which will be obviously that get cwd, which represents the get current working directory. And after you get that current working directory, you have to now run that command. So basically if you want to execute it, let's give this one. I'll just show you what this is about. So this is to send the server. So basically we are just sending the information back to the server. So you can see what we just did, we just encoded. Basically what we happened, or basically what has happened over here is, if you change any directory, you have to come across the new directory. So that is basically the encoding, and we are getting the current working directory now, because this will just change the directory, and after changing the directory there should be the new information of the directory. So we are getting the new information again, and this is to represent, that is, if I just show you something over here in the Kali Linux. So I have done this before, so you could see that this was the current working directory, which was the desktop over here, and I just type here cd, and it has changed to this desktop now, and at the last there was this sign angular bracket, so we are just putting that at the last. So if I just go over here, so we are just putting this at the last, so that it will just represent now the another working directory or the path on the system. So we have now created a command which will just change the directory, and let's do same for another command. So it should be in here, and in this elif part, if the length of the str data, which is over this data, is greater than 0 now, so that can be any command. Now if there is any command, we have to make use of again, that is the sub processes, which is right here, which you can see, that is this command which we just have written. And I'll just grab all of these, and let me just copy this and paste it right here, because it is the same process to execute the command. So let me just paste it over here. So you can see that we have used this popen processes in order to execute this command in the form of process, and we have just given here the cd. So instead of cd there should be the first data, and we'll just remove this cd because this is no longer the change directory command. So I'll just remove this, and after the str data, it should be standard out, and there should be the process, and that is this process sub process dot pipe, and there should be the standard error attribute, which will have this sub process dot pipe again, and there should be the next one, that is also the sub process dot pipe. And we have talked in a minute before that about these sub processes, and the cells should be true. So we have now completed this command. Now let's go over here. So after we just make that command to work, next thing what you need to do is we have to get the string output again. So same as before, what we just did over here, now we do not have to check for the standard error, but we can simply go for the string output. So let's take that str output, and let's make this, that is, first of all let's use that object command like as we have done before, and std out, which is going to just read the command. Let's read that command first, and let's concatenate again, and this is the same what we just did over here, which is basically splitting the lines and decoding that. So let's grab the same one, and let's see if this works or not. So first of all we'll just decode it. So let me just grab it first. and let me quickly paste it. There is a one small tweaks that has to be done here. So we don't want to split the lines anymore because we are not doing the change directory over here. So after you decode, and decode is essential because we are just using the command from the server. After you decode, we are going to check the errors here, and we are going to replace. So we are going to just replace right here. So after that, let me just go down again, and let's get that byte data same as before. So in this case, we have to again encode, and we have to send this byte data back to the server. So that's why we have to encode. We'll just get the string output, and we'll just add it with again, or concatenate with again this /n. So let me just go over here and copy this, and let me just paste it over here. And now next thing what you have to do is get the current working directory, and same as before. So it's better to just copy everything. So let's paste it down here. So the difference between over here and here is only the commands. So this should have the cd command or csdir command, and this command can be anything. So we're just executing it over here in the same way that we execute in the case of the cd command. And let's go over here, and if we just didn't get any of this command, we have to do something, and that is just we will give the encoding information saying it is error, and I'll just type here that is str. We should encode it first, and we'll just say error, just error. Okay, this will be the information that will be given to the user. And basically next thing what you have to do after you just pass that is the string buffer that should be given to the server. So let's make that string buffer. So I'll just go over here, and I'll just create that string buffer, and here you have to something that is you have to get that data byte, which is the byte of data which comes as a encoded to send for the server. So let's get that string buffer. Now we can call this send method, and first of all we'll make sure that it is also encoded, which is string buffer, and let's encode that one more time, and we have send now. So in each send we'll just make some wait over here, which will be 0.1 second, and let's send again this byte of data. So that is byte of data will be also sent, and we are just sending output over here. So we have completed our this method, which is command cell. So this is not going to do much more because it is simply we're simply doing as a whole, that is running the command on the cell. So everything that is matter over here is basically this two line of command. So what this does, it will just get that command decoded, it will check for that command, and it will just execute in the cell as the form of process. It will just get that output as a byte, because you should remember command prompt is going to execute in the bytes. So we have to first get that byte of data, we have to encode it again, and basically you can see over here that it has been converted into the string buffer again, and we encoded it, and again we send it back to the server. So we have completed in the case of a client. Basically we have executed how to just run command that is sent by the server in the command cell remotely. Now in the next lecture, this lecture has been already long lecture, so in the next lecture we'll just execute those what is sent from here back to the server. We'll just see how that will be evaluated, and we'll just format it so that it will be represented and presented to the user. So this will be wrap for this lecture. In the next lecture we'll just completed the server side, and we'll just see the output. So see you in the next one.